Hello and welcome to episode 10 of For Our Consideration.
We made it to 10 episodes.
We made it to 10 episodes, baby. Double digits. What about that? Yeah, if this is your first episode, happy 10th anniversary. You've got 9 glorious episodes to go back and watch. Which I'm sure you'll enjoy every one, even with the varying audio quality. My name's Dan, and I am here to talk about movies with Courtney. Hi, Courtney.
Hi, Dan.
We are.
That made me throw up my mouth a little bit.
Yeah, because you're used to calling me arsehole. We're going to talk about movies. Last episode, if you watched it, we were maybe a bit more negative on the whole. And this episode, it's all going to be positive because we like these movies. Well, actually, to be fair, we sort of switched the movies about, so I don't actually know if that's the case. But hey, we'll find out.
But that's
That's the fun of what?
We did like these movies.
Yeah, all 4 of them. Do you remember the 4? Because I've kind of forgot. We'll remember as we go. It's fine.
Sure.
In fact, let's tell the people what we're talking about today. We're talking about the menu.
Yes.
Which has just come out
Which we
for
liked.
us. I don't know if it's been out in America for a while, but yeah. We are talking
Yeah, we
about.
liked all these movies.
We're talking about Black Panther. We're talking about Watcher. And we're talking about Barbarian. Yeah, you know, we did like all these movies. That's nice. It's nice to have a positive thing every once in a while.
Makes a change.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good to have good things to talk about instead of garbage. So
Like Moonage Daydream.
like, do you know what? That's in the past. It's last episode. Let's not dwell on that. Happy go lucky. Happy episode 10. Let's do it. All good vibes here from here on out. Do you have a preference for what movie you'd like to talk about first? Shall we just go with the menu since we saw the menu most recently?
Yeah.
So
Sorry, the dog's trying to get in.
yeah, dog try again, but he's struggling. Okay, there he goes.
Oh, there he is.
So yeah, we saw the menu the other night, and we both liked it. I thought going in, this would be your movie, and you would probably come out with it liking it a lot more than I did. Although I was really looking forward to it because I liked the weird premise and I liked the cast. And what did you think of it?
Yeah, this movie is tailor-made for me. You were totally right. I was kind of skeptical a little bit. Just because I thought it was going to go weirder than it did, so I'm glad it didn't.
When were you skeptical? Like because we watched Graham Norton with her on it, talking about it.
Yeah.
Stuff. Was that like?
So I kind of, going into this movie, we should probably say just full spoilers, to be fair.
Yeah, full spoilers. We talked about this. So at some point, you'll get episode 25 of Pop Shop Podcast where we sort of give our non-spoiler thoughts.
All the milestones.
Yeah. So if you want to hear our non-spoiler thoughts, click on episode 25 to now. I'll maybe link that below if I remember. But here we're going to go kind of
All
spoilers for these
Spoilers.
movies. So yeah, see the menu. It's great. Go on.
So I kind of thought, maybe this is just because I'm sick, I kind of thought there was going to be some cannibalism in this film.
I thought that's what it was going to. Yes.
I'm glad it didn't. I'm glad it stuck to just being what it is, which is just a really good kind of uneasy, on edge thriller that has a lot of pretty decent food throughout it.
There was a point where I thought it was going to go into cannibalism. If we're just going full spoilers, assuming that people watching have seen the film.
Yeah.
When the boy shoots himself,
I thought they were going to
be
use him.
served.
I thought they were going to be like, no waste.
Yes.
Let us cook him.
So did I.
Which I would have been okay with that. I thought it was going to be... When I say cannibalism, I thought it was going to be like The Hunt. Where like all the chefs go out and hunt for the people.
Do you know what was a bit like that movie, The Hunt? It did remind me of that a bit.
But I thought it was going to lean more... Obviously, you had the wee bit of the chase.
Yeah. Yeah,
But it was done better than what I had expected in my head.
The chase bit was very... I didn't mind it, but they made more of that in the trailer than they did in the movie. In the movie, it's literally just
which
like...
I was
they
happy
have a
with.
quick chase and then they're all back in again. Like, it's not really that...
I liked that. I was really pleased about that, actually. So for me... Yeah, it's tailor-made for me. I'm a massive foodie. I've got my own food Instagram. I've got all that. Check out Never Not Hungry if you fancy.
Nice plug.
But no, this film was great. I mean, I again, I'm not a huge fan of Anya Taylor-Joy, but unjustifiably so, and I explained that in the Pop Shop episode. But she was good at it. Ralph Fiennes is unbelievable in this film. Again, they could have went weirder, they could have went darker with him, but I feel like the way that they played him, with how warm they played him at parts, made it. Like, this film was... And I've been thinking about it a lot, like, because we seen it, yesterday?
Yesterday.
And I've been thinking about it a lot since then. And for me, I would probably say this is a perfect film. And I know I've been giving 10s out, as he says, like confetti, right? But the balance for me in this film was perfect. It was loads of element of humour, but it was also like nervous laughter, and you felt like you were nervously laughing along with the people. And you came away saying that you had a wee bit of an issue with them, the fact that they didn't do anything when they find out that they're going to die and they don't all uprise or whatever. But do you know something? See, that kind of culture with those type of people, I find that totally believable. They're all sheep in their own kind of way. And so they wouldn't. And there's always that element of, if I uprise and it is a joke,
I will look a fool.
I look like a dick.
Yeah.
But if I just keep going with it and it is a joke, I can be like, see, I knew it. They're too scared of their own egos to go against the flow, which is why, and he addresses it. He addresses the fact that any of you could have stood up and made a noise. Yous all could have had an uprising, and yous would have probably won, and yous would have probably got away alive, but yous never.
Yeah.
And it's I chef kiss. Loved it.
Appropriate. So yeah, I liked it too. I liked how I'll go back to the sort of thing you said I had an issue with, because I've kind of been thinking about that actually, and might have changed my opinion a wee bit. So the movie itself is great. It is sort of a one-man show for a lot of it. I mean, the supporting cast are great, but I would say, I mean, the lead role is Ray Fiennes. He absolutely commands this film. I guess after that, Anya Taylor-Joy's kind of our surrogate, the audience surrogate. But if it was a one-man show, it's a Ray Fiennes, it's Ray Fiennes' show. And he is, incredible. I mean, as we all know, he's
brilliant.
He's no stranger to playing intimidating kind of.
But for me, this took the cake. I think this is his best performance.
I think
for me.
you're making all the food references.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. So, I do think he was exceptional in it. And yeah, I knew he was going to be great going in, but he even sort of surpassed how good I was expecting him to be. The parallel that I can draw in his performance here is one of my other favourite performances of the last few years, J.K. Simmons' Fletcher for Whiplash. The way that he walks into a room and there's fear but respect, and there's a commanding presence, and he doesn't really need to do much. Like in this movie, his thing's a clap. I'm not going to clap because it'll blow the audio out, but he does his clap when he wants to draw attention. And it just that sort of physical tick that he had, and conjunction with his sort of monologue and delivery, just put me in mind of J.K. Simmons and Whiplash quite a lot. And the intensity of it. It was, as you said, it was a lot warmer at certain points. That was the thing. I feel like Ray Fiennes really, you need an actor like Ray Fiennes. I mean, I feel like we said this as well earlier before we started recording. I feel like this role was written for him.
Yeah.
But even if it wasn't written for him, you need an actor. I feel like the reason he was perfect for it, you need an actor that's able to ride that emotional, the range of emotions. Because you need to be able to do that sort of warm, welcoming thing. You need to do the leadership, commandeering, in charge of a kitchen thing. You need to do the scary sort of Darth Vader villain thing. You need to do the sort of self-doubt. Even though he's this, he's got this like why don't you like my food? He's got this a thing eating at him, and then he's also got this distaste for the critics of the industry and the sort of what it's become with TikTok food and But at the same time, he has got this kind of childlike. You can see that he was somebody that used to love what he did, and he is still passionate. do you know what it kind of reminds me of a wee bit?
Which leads itself to the end of the film.
The critic in Ratatouille, see when he has that moment when he goes back to his childhood, Ray finds there's wee glimmers in his eyes of that sort of thing.
Yes.
Like, and you need an actor that can do all that in the space of, like, what, 2 hours, however long the film lasts.
Yes.
And it's, like, effortless. Like, Ray Fiennes just does it as if it's, like, in his sleep. Like, he's that good. So, yeah, it's totally and utterly his film. I do think, though, that I really enjoyed the supporting cast. John Leguizamo in particular, I thought he was great. He was a total
Nicholas
douchebag.
Hoult as well, he was great.
Yeah. Hoult and
That's
Taylor
probably
Joy were
the
both
best
good.
role I've seen him do for a wee while, I think.
Yeah, he was just so sycophantic and, like, so, like an insolent child, like how he was taking photos of the food after he was told not to and stuff. Like, he was just so, and he was so, like, up his arse, it was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Which made what eventually happened to that character believable, because he was so.
But I mean,
the way, like,
not to be that guy, but you said he was me.
He was you at the start of the movie. There's a scene where they're both on the boat and they get served their first kind of appetizer dish, and they're just on their way there, and Anya Taylor-Joy goes to grab the thing off the plate, and he actually smacks her hand away so he can take a photo. That's dynamic here, except the other way around. I'm Anya Taylor-Joy and you're Nicholas Hoult.
I can't even argue. Like, I can't disagree, because no.
I liked the air of mystery of who Anya Taylor-Joy's character was, because there was this whole thing where, like, Ray Fiennes specifically planned this evening with these guests in mind, and the fact that Nicholas Hoult was meant to bring another girl and ended up bringing her instead kind of throws everything out of whack for him and almost kind of ruins his whole flow.
Because he can't justify killing someone that
he
doesn't feel deserves it.
He plays that beautifully as well. Like, he plays that thing where he's like, even though he's in charge and in control and he's, like, dictating the night, there's this wee thing niggling in the back of his head that he's like, who the hell is she? Where does she come from? You know, and you can see that a lot, and it throws him. Yeah, totally. And he has to know, and he's got this, like, almost like an obsession with, like, knowing who everybody is and whatever.
Which, I mean, if you're going to kill a room full of people, you kind of want to know who you're killing and why.
And, like, the part where she's like, I'm full, and he's like, that's not possible, but I've perfectly portioned all these dishes so that you won't be full, so that can't be the case. Like, it's just the way he delivers it. He's so, like, he's like, that there's no chance. Like, he's so 100% dead cert that she can't, like, you're talking shite. Like, of course not. And he does it so well. But these are the parts that are almost like, they're funny, but they're also, like, kind of scary and kind of like, oh my god, this guy's a psycho, but kind of like, I don't know, it's that uncomfortable kind of laughter, I guess. And then the thing that I had an issue with was the sort of the way the film handles tone, although actually this happens for me sometimes when I see a film either the day after, I like it more or I like it less upon, like, reflection. I actually think I like this more, because reflecting on the way that they take the audience on a kind of tonal shift through the whole film, though, it kind of earns this, we're going to go into the ending, the kind of silly ending, and the kind of like, so there's a kind of spoiler twist thing that you find out at a certain point, say about halfway through, that Nicholas Hoult knew he was the only one out the whole all the diners who knew that they were going there to die. The plan was that this guy was going to basically keep all these people captive in this room, feed them all this food, and then kill them. Like, that was always the plan, basically. So he was the only one that knew that, and he still went along with it. And not only that, he brought an innocent person along with him to get involved in whatever. So just adds to how much a scumbag the guy is. But that, even though, like, see, when you think about that he had that in his head the whole time, it would also make it interesting to rewatch that, knowing that. I feel like if they'd revealed that at the start of the movie or any point before when they did, you'd be like, this is dumb. But by the time they get there, it gets weirder and weirder and weirder to the point that it's viable.
Yeah.
And then again, with the thing about them not rising up against him, it's kind of like, they kind of say this in the movie. In fact, I think Nicholas Hoult actually says it. He's like, don't think about the price, don't think about the pretentiousness of it, just go with it, just buy into it and go with the journey. And that is kind of like breaking the fourth wall with the audience. Like, if you just trust this director and this cast to take you on this journey, you'll probably enjoy it more. And if you, I'm not saying you can't question things like, oh, why don't they just, grab a knife and square up to him or whatever, but if you sort of buy the journey of the film, like I said, that kind of midpoint reveal of him knowing that they were all going to die the whole time, that's obviously ridiculous, and that wouldn't happen in the real world. But the movie at that point, one of the sous chefs has already willingly shot himself for this lead chef, so you already know it's going weird places before you get that revealed. So by the time that gets revealed, you're like, oh, this person's a psycho as well. And then, you know, at the end of the movie, when they're all, spoilers, they all get turned into s'mores at the end. They all get big marshmallow like ponchos put on them and a chocolate thing in their head, and then they all get set on fire. So like by the point, and there's literally like chocolate streaming down their faces while they're like crying because they know they're going to die.
It's like blood and stuff, and it's just genius.
So,
it's genius.
By the time they do that, like that is also the point where that is like full on 100% 10 out of 10 ridiculousness. So by the point you get there, what you need to ask is kind of reflect and say, right, has the director and has the movie took me on a journey where this isn't just, this is dumb. This is like, that's a weird, funny, quirky ending to a weird, funny, quirky movie. Like, you need to decide like where it's justifiable, and upon reflection, I do think it was. So I actually have less issues with the sort of tonal, because it's so gradual. I feel like it sort of earns its silliness towards the end, and its over the topness.
Good, I'm glad. Just going back on what you said about comparing him to J.K. Simmons and
Fletcher. Whiplash.
What am I trying to say? The feel of the relationship between him and the other chefs. She's taking them at the start of the film. She's taking them all through.
Oh yeah, the front of house.
The whole
the Asian
island.
lady. She was
so
creepy,
good. But she was good.
Yeah.
And
I've seen her other thing. She's always good.
She is taking them through each part of the island, so she's showing them where they forage from, and she's showing them the animals that they rear and they kill themselves and things like that. And she takes them in and she shows them their living quarters, and they're like, "Wait a minute,
who's live here?"
Who's live here? And it's like an army bunk. It's not luxurious.
That's a good comparison. It is like the army.
There's no luxuries.
Like
there's no.
They're like a unit, like a squad.
There's no telly. The toilets are out in the open. There's no comfort. None. And then you see chef's house and chef's different and chef's separate, and nobody's allowed in a chef's house at all, and things like that. But then she states we're all family, and you're like, right, okay. But as the film goes on, and of course it probably kind of starts with the sous chef shooting himself, you get the commitment these people have to this man.
Yeah, the supporting cast were good in that, in selling that.
And it's
insane
that's
commitment,
where I
almost
feel
like
like
brainwashed.
when you compare him to Fletcher, that's where I kind of lose that a wee bit.
Yeah, okay.
They don't have any fear on him. He only puts fear into the diners.
Sure.
When he goes into the room,
it's like love. It's like he's their dad almost. Like he's their god. Yeah.
And he reaffirms that, and he's like, "I love you all.
Yeah, you say that
we love you, chef."
Yeah.
And that gets said a lot, and they reaffirm that feeling of love a lot.
Well, I mean, it's like you look at this and you're like, this is insane. Like, who would go and give their life for this guy? Mate, cults. That's what cults do. Look at Waco. Look at Manson. Look at.
And I mean, it's taken
like it is
the hospitality industry and putting it on steroids, because chefs do give up their lives to go and train under other chefs.
Yeah, well, they make a point of that in it, where not that I guess the commitment thing, but like it ruins your body and it ruins your mind, and you're always trying to please people that can't be pleased. Like they do,
and you're constantly working under someone until you get to the point where everyone's working under you, and at that point,
do you lose the passion?
Where are you?
Yeah,
and that, and I loved that kind of comparison. I loved that tongue in cheek of the like people like chefs who go and work under Gordon Ramsay, Marcus Waring, like all of these big Michelin star chefs, and people give up family lives, they give up social lives, they give up everything because being a chef is their be all and end all. And coming from someone who would like to be a chef, I kind of get it.
Well, that was the thing about Ray Fiennes' character. He was, as you said, he was like one of these chefs on steroids. But when you see these chefs with their huge egos and big mood swings, you know, you've seen it on TV, like folk like Marco Pierre White and Gordon Ramsay and stuff. It's not beyond the realm of believability that someone could go, especially if they were on an island secluded, kind of not in touch with the rest of the world and kind of out of touch with reality, that they could go full on
Oh yeah,
insane cult leader.
absolutely.
And also, it did a good job of, like selling the whole family thing and selling the whole unit thing, but also it was quite a good commentary on the industry where I thought it done a good job of. It didn't take the piss out of like the fine dining industry because it did speak about like the passion it takes to be the best, and
it leaned into
it spoke about like the natural foraging of stuff and how, as you said earlier, nothing gets wasted. Like, they use everything and stuff. But it also did take the piss. It also did speak about how ridiculous it is that people pay a fortune for a bit of foam on a rock. Like it done both. Like it rode that fence quite well.
Yeah, it kind of let itself
it held a mirror up.
these.
Yeah, it held a mirror up to the kind
Yeah.
of foodie industry where it was like, we get it, and we, whoever made the filmmakers in this movie, they also have a respect for like the food industry, but they also see it for what it is. That, you know, and especially with the critic
Sometimes
character,
people
they
just
do a
want
lot.
a good plate of food.
They do a lot through the Janet McTeer, is that her name? She was really good too as a critic. They use her a lot in that sense,
Yeah.
but yeah, it just, I don't know. It kind of shows you how pathetic a lot of it is, but how
Necessarily a lot of it is.
yeah, and the pathetic thing, they never make the people that work in the industry the pathetic thing. The pathetic thing is always the audience, the diners, the critics, the Instagram people,
the money grabbing, the
Yeah,
fame grabbing, the name dropping.
They take hits at the right side of the industry, I guess. Do you know what I mean? They're not slagging people that commit and people that put their all into it, even though they're not
slagging the art.
Yeah,
they lean themselves into the art.
Yeah, I thought they rode that. They've done that well. Totally. That balance.
Absolutely.
It wasn't insulting, but it was also, it didn't shy away from how silly some of it is, but not through any fault of the creators. Do you know what I mean? It done a good job of that.
Definitely more of what society has made it rather than what the chefs
want it to be, or ever intended it to be when they started.
Absolutely. And another thing just on Ralph Fiennes' performance, because I could go on for hours, but I feel like nowadays you kind of forget the charm that Ralph Fiennes can have sometimes. Like, you see him playing such a cold
like Voldemort
villain or whatever. Even
Voldemort,
elements of charm in them, don't get me wrong, but in this there's certain points where he's got like the charm of like Made in Manhattan when he was like the love interest with J-Lo, and he's like, you get that coming through him again, which was really nice to see. But having that
contrast
coming through, and also having the fear and the presence that he's got, like, it was just such.
It's almost like a
perfect performance,
a perfect amalgamation of all his past work in a way.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I get that.
I would probably put it down as the performance of a lifetime for him in this, because
it's best role.
Yeah, it blew me away. And you go in and you know Ralph Fiennes is going to be good, so I feel like
it's a given. But
when you go in and you expect an actor to be good, and then they even surpass how good they usually are, it was just
it's pretty remarkable,
unbelievable. Like, it was so good.
No, he's great. One other thing I was going to say that I'm glad they didn't do, that I just thought for a split second, when they were sort of toying with the idea of who Anya Taylor-Joy really was and her real name and stuff, I thought she was going to have some connection to him, be a ex-lover's daughter or some sort of long lost, or maybe she used to work under him or something.
Well, she did have the connection to the other diner because she's a prostitute.
Yeah, they connected. Yeah, the older man and her. But I was glad that they didn't have that connection. Like the moment, and they sort of sussed out the moment that he kind of corners on the bathroom when she sneaks out the bathroom for a fag, and he comes out and be like, "Why don't you like my food?" You can tell in that scene they don't know anything about each other, and I'm glad it established they had that scene quite early in the film. Yeah. Because even though they were keeping up the mystery, I would have hated if they were like dragging that out, like, "Oh, does she know him?" They were like, "No, they don't know each other," but you still don't find out the whole story until later on. It was paced well in that sense. Yeah. The reveals were paced well. Yeah. Yeah. I liked it a lot. There was some extreme stuff in it. There was some really funny laugh out loud moments. There was some really sad moments. There was some
very tongue in cheek,
brilliant looking food. Like, spoilers, if you love a cheeseburger, there's a scene in this movie that will just make you want to eat the screen.
And the chicken thigh, I know that was a bit messed up, but
but it looks so well cooked. And the smokehouse with all this stuff. Oh man, 100%. I'm getting hungry. Let's start talking about this. But yeah, if you like thrillers and you like food, and for some reason you're still watching this and you haven't seen the movie, go see the movie. It's right up your street.
So good.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. Right, let's move on. Let's.
What would you rate
Oh,
that?
sorry. Oh, sugar. So yesterday I was at an 8 when I first seen it.
Okay.
I think I'll put it up to a 9. I think
Yeah.
I'm at a 9. I wouldn't say it's like perfect 10 out of 10 mind blowing film, but it was really good, and I'd say like at least 7 or 8 of those points are just for Ray Fiennes' performance alone. But everything there wasn't an overly bad. Wasn't it was bad? Like the only thing I kind of had the problem with, like I addressed it, I've kind of like go over it almost. So yeah, it was just really good movie, solid.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably 9. What about you?
Well, you know me, I'm a 10 that gives out 10.
To be fair, you're a 10. To be fair, I would be disappointed. I would feel like this movie didn't do his job if you didn't give it a 10, because this movie is like made for you.
For me.
So if you're going to give any of these movies we're talking about today a 10, I feel like it should be this one, because if not, then it's done something seriously wrong.
Totally. Yeah, same.
Yeah.
No, it genuinely was as if somebody just went, here, I know her, let's make her a film.
It was really good.
Yeah, loved it. Okay, move on.
So, shall we do Black Panther? Because Black Panther, the new Marvel movie, came out, and that was last week we saw it, and it was really good for the most part. It was maybe a little bit long, but it was how do I put this without like being insulting to anyone? I feel like it was the best. It is the film representative of the best of a bad situation. Like you can tell when you watch the movie that what we got obviously wasn't the original plan, but that's kind of the point in the movie, and that's life. Sometimes the original plan doesn't work out, and you just need to make the best of it. So even though that's maybe a criticism of like the film, it's kind of the whole point of what they're trying to get across. So you can kind of forgive it that. But in terms of like the actual details of the movie, like the different aspects, like the performances, the CGI, just some of the writing was really good. It was just, it was solid, like across the board. It was solid, and it also was obviously pretty sad at some parts, although not overly sad, which I also appreciated. Like it didn't make the whole thing. There was still a joy to some parts of the movie, which I feel like you need to honour the full legacy of Chadwick Boseman. I think just making it a pure depression fest would have been too much. I think you need to have, I mean, it's also a Marvel movie, obviously they've all got their lighter moments, but I feel like in this movie it wasn't done in a sort of crass doing it for laughs type way. It was done as like a continuation of, and I also personally think I preferred it to the last movie. I feel like the last movie, as much as I liked it, and as much as I did prefer Chadwick as a Black Panther to Shuri, who we get in this movie, to be fair, we'll get into her as Black Panther in a minute, because it's kind of been thrust on her, just like how it's been thrust on the actress in real life. But anyway, we'll get into all that. Even though I like Chadwick better as the Black Panther, I prefer this movie because my main issue with Black Panther was it didn't feel like I'm a Ryan Coogler fan, and Black Panther didn't feel like a Ryan Coogler movie. It felt like an MCU movie, whereas this to me felt more like a Ryan Coogler movie. It felt closer to something like Creed or Fruitvale Station, and that is kind of what I wanted going into Black Panther. So it's a shame that Chadwick had to pass away to get that, but I feel like this film delivers on that. It feels more like there's more of a director's voice in this movie than there was in the first one, I think. It doesn't feel like it's feeding into like what's to come as much as Black Panther was. Like Black Panther, obviously, it was an origin story, but it was an origin because we met him in Civil War. But it was like his first main movie, so they had to get all that stuff out of the way, establish Wakanda, establish his sister and his family, relationships. Whereas this movie didn't have to do any of that, so it kind of just focused on the aftermath of the original Black Panther's life. At least that's how it starts. And to be honest, yeah, that's kind of how it goes the whole movie. And it's possibly the most like contemplative Marvel movie we've had. Like in terms of like thinking back, it's quite. It's weird because it's like nostalgic, but it's nostalgic for something recent. It's a weird feeling. But yeah, I liked it overall. What did you think?
This film devastated me. Like genuinely, sitting here talking about it now, I could still cry. Like. it was just...
It was really well done and respectful, I think, the way they'd done it.
The full thing was just such an homage to him. Like, it was unbelievable. All the cast done impeccably well.
Yeah.
Like, so well. And
like, it was subtle enough that it wasn't like I said, like playing up for sadness, but it also
no, because the sadness
enough.
was so natural, they didn't have to play it up.
Yeah.
Because you could feel the devastation of these real people.
Yeah, I was going to say there was
through the screen, and I was going to say I think that's why it felt more like a Ryan Coogler film, because it's personal to him.
There was scenes where it wasn't like they were acting, like it was like the actors' reaction.
Absolutely. I mean, when you open on a film and his sister is trying to save his life from this disease, and you know for a fact that she would have done everything, that actress would have done everything she could have done to save his life or new life, it's just too close together to not come across as realistic.
What I thought was interesting, I don't know if you picked up on this, if it was just me.
Mm-hmm.
Shuri was in the movie. They sort of made it out that the character of T'Challa didn't tell people he was ill, and now it was too late to save him, and she was frustrated at that.
Yeah.
Do you think there was some truth to that in terms of Chadwick hiding his illness from Ryan Coogler and from like the people?
I think with this film they had to put as much of their truth into it as possible for it to work and for it to not seem like a trope, which they done extremely well. Like, everybody that is there when Angela Bassett gives the performance of her life in this film.
Yeah, she's great.
And it feels like a mother who's lost her son. It genuinely, honest to God, does. And even when you've got characters, again, spoilers, like Killmonger, when he comes back, you still even feel the respect coming through in that performance for Chadwick. Like, everything, when it's the kind of, not the full film, because obviously you've got all the stuff with like Namor and stuff, and that feels separate, which is good because you need that balance. But all of the intimate scenes with everyone feels like they're genuinely speaking their truth. All of them feel like they are performing with him at their back.
Yeah.
And it's just
beautiful. Even though he's not there, other than being a mural on the wall in one part and then a couple of old clips.
Yeah.
You feel his presence through the whole thing.
You feel him through the whole thing.
Yeah, which is the point. Like, that's the point. It's about loss. It's a movie about loss.
Absolutely.
And, like,
and they deal with that so well. And yeah, I feel like the kind of breaks that you get when like they're fighting, like when they go to like Namor's like underworld palace and all that's brilliant. The CGI, outstanding. And I mean, Letitia Wright's hair deserves its own credit in this film because it was actually phenomenal. But yeah, when you know you're going in to watch people dedicate something to someone, it was perfect. It was devastatingly sad. And then you've got that right at the beginning, so they just rip the band-aid off. There's no messing about. Here it is. He's not here anymore. I mean, when they done the opening title sequence for the Marvel and it was silent.
It was just him. Just clips of him.
I was a mess. It was
really well done.
Like, I had to like sit like this so I didn't verbally cry. Like, absolute mess. And we came out of the cinema and you went to the bathroom and the girl who scans the tickets came over to me and she was like, if I hadn't scanned your ticket, I don't know what film you just came out of. Because I was a mess. I had makeup on and the tears had made lines on my face. I looked like a white small screen.
You actually look like Kang in the trailer for Ant-Man where he's got the big scars coming down.
So, no, this film gave everything. It gave everything in its efforts. And yeah, I agree some bits were a wee bit long. Particularly for me, the fight scene on the boat.
At the end, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was kind of where I felt. It's like, I didn't really feel it anywhere else for me personally. Okay. But I felt it there.
So, the movie, again, this is like maybe going to sound like a criticism, but also is kind of the point. Black Panther, the new Black Panther, doesn't show up until very late on in the film, and it is a long movie. But
I don't think they should have shown up any earlier though.
the point is you're meant to miss the Black Panther. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
And even though, yeah, like you said, I don't think you can change it. I think that's the spots where the movie feels like it does somewhat drag. I liked the stuff, but then at the same time, I feel like there was also a lot to cover, and they could have made this into like a mini series or like 2 movies. You know, they could have spent more time actually on some parts, like Riri Williams. I really liked her character.
Oh, she's great.
She's like Peter Parker in Civil War. Really, that's this side's version of that. Wakanda's version of that. The way they kind of take her under the wing and give her some tech to work with, and same way Peter and Tony did. I'm really looking forward to seeing more of her in her series when it comes out. And
is she getting a full series?
Yeah, Ironheart's going to be a series.
That's cute.
And although I will get to the design of her armor, which I thought looked kind of goofy, she looked like a transformer. But anyway, again, there was a good part that they kind of, I don't know if it was them not committing to that design, because there was a part where Shuri actually says to her in the movie, you know, we can't let you take that armor home with you.
Yeah, so she's going to make
she's going to get a redesign, and also it means you can sell more toys. That's obviously also the reason, because it's always the reason with Disney. So yeah, the Riri Williams stuff, I could have done maybe a bit more of that, and also the Namor stuff. As much as I liked it, I think it was a bold choice to introduce him in the Black Panther sequel, because apparently even before Chadwick passed away and empty, you know, the original plan when he was still going to be in it, they were still going to do Namor. Like, that was the plan right for the start. So it is quite a bold decision to introduce a whole new character with his whole. It would be like introducing Aquaman in a movie in like the Suicide Squad. Do you know what I mean? It would just be a strange choice, but it worked. It felt like the character had.
Oh, is he as big of a character as that?
Yeah, he's Aquaman. Yeah, he is like.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Like he's in the comics, he's an Avenger at a certain point. Like he goes on to become an Avenger. Whereas in this movie, he's a villain.
Okay.
He has in the comics, he has both been a villain and a hero. Like he has went both ways.
I could maybe see that. Turning around to that.
But in this movie, they do a good job of making him like somewhat of a fundamentalist, and also a bit of an arsehole for like hiding under the water the whole time. When Thanos was cutting about and when aliens broke in at New York,
I wonder how many of his people went click.
But it wasn't until the point where. But at the same time, you do get a lot of countries like that in real life that stay out of stuff until we go into, or animals, I guess, all like this, until you go into their territory, they don't bother. You don't even know they're there until you encroach in their territory, and then that's why, you know, the plot to this movie where he's trying to kill Riri Williams because she built the tech that caused the government to find the vibranium in there.
And to be fair, we kind of can't dig him on that because the Eternals did nothing for Thanos. So
yeah, that's definitely true.
We've had that argument before.
The other thing, I thought it was interesting to see all the kind of treaty stuff with like different nations and stuff. I like that sort of political side of Marvel because you've got this precious resource, and obviously at the start of the movie when they're doing the UN meeting and they're begging Angela Bassett to give them the resources to obviously make weapons with, and she's like, "No, I'm not giving you this," you know.
And then she comes out with that phenomenal monologue.
Yeah, well, I'm going to get into her in a wee sec because she was incredible. The sort of political spectrum stuff. It was interesting how like if the only reason that the whole thing that the war between Atlantis and Wakanda started was because of that, because she didn't give the UN the stuff. That's why they contracted Riri Williams to make this thing, which then led to them finding the Atlantis, you know, the city under the sea.
Yep.
So that's why Namor blames Wakanda, because if they just gave them the vibranium, then, you know, they wouldn't have got bothered. It's an interesting mirror on like kind of a lot of the stuff that's going on just now in Eastern Europe as well, and there's just it was quite a cool. I like when stuff like that happens and it kind of gives it a foot in reality, because you know, when it's CGI and there's aliens and there's stuff blown up, it's quite easy to become detached. But when they provide you with the sort of stuff that it's like, oh, holy shit, I've heard this sort of thing on the news. It kind of makes you, it makes you more invested, I think, as an audience member. So between that and Angela Bassett's performance, like she just. So the first movie was nominated and won a bunch of Oscars. There was a lot of debate at the time whether it was deserved or not because it was a Marvel movie and blah blah blah. If you're going to give this movie an Oscar, anyone in this movie an Oscar, I'd say it would be Angela Bassett. I think she 100%. everybody in the movie's great. Don't get me
100%.
wrong, it's a very high bar. Everybody's solid, but some of her monologues, they felt like they were from, I don't know, like a kind of more Oscar baity movie, like a 12 Years a Slave, or a, I don't know, like something more kind of highbrow than a Marvel movie. Like they really elevated. I think she elevated the material, and those kind of scenes elevated the movie as a whole as well, and gave it a sort of prestige. Because that's the thing, like they bring a lot of these kind of iconic, legendary actors in, like Robert Redford, for example.
I don't really give them anything to play with.
Robert Redford's great in the Marvel movies, but it's Robert Redford. Do you know what I mean? You can do more. And I feel like this is one of the few times that they've really pushed Angela Bassett to the absolute peak of her abilities, and it pays off because it leads to some of the most emotional, hard-hit scenes in the whole film. Yeah, and then also just to talk about Letitia Wright, what I thought was interesting, both about, again, it's a parallel between the movie and real life. She obviously was never supposed to be the Black Panther, both in real life and in the movie. Well, at least not for
yet.
a bunch of years, because in the comics, okay, Shuri does eventually become Black Panther, but that's way down the line. Whereas both the actor and the character has had this role thrust upon them. And then it's all about them dealing with it. So yeah, it very much kind of breaks the fourth wall in a lot of places. The fact as well that even when she eventually does suit up as the Black Panther and she does fight as the Black Panther, she's only doing it because she has to.
Mm-hmm.
So it also makes me wonder, is it sort of one and done for that character? Is she going to pass the mantle on or whatever?
So.
Or I guess that could be its own subplot in the next movie. Is her kind of like, right, what now? Like, I've avenged my brother. We've went through all the shit that we go through in Wakanda Forever. We've dealt with Namor. What the people still need an icon to rally behind, so do I become that? Or I guess that could be its own sort of subplot, again. But yeah, and I thought Okoye was great as well. I mean, Denai Guerrero is always quality, but really liked her. There was a particular scene that she had on the bridge when she was fighting the Atlantans, and the choreography in that scene was solid. It was probably the best choreography in the whole film. And stuff, the way she flips that spear's heavy cool. But yeah, I agree that although that scene, the choreography was very strong, the scene at the end on the boat, it became a bit of a CGI laser fest at a certain point.
Yeah, that bored me a little
bit. It's just, we've seen it so many times, like we've seen so many Marvel shows and movies end like that it's kind of like, this is happening again.
The choreography for that scene started off really well, like when they're like coming off the edge of the boat and stuff like that.
Nice cinematography, it was shot well.
But for
and
me,
the CGI was good.
The peak of Diana Guerrero's performance was when she loses Shuri.
Mm-hmm.
When she's talking to Angela Bassett.
Mm-hmm. When she comes out of the throne room.
And she gets fired as the general.
Yeah.
That performance there.
Yeah.
That was peak for me. Because again, it was the amount of emotion that was coming out of her. And obviously all the cast are going to be really emotional throughout this film because they've lost a family member. But she reached another level for me with that scene. I thought she was stunning in that scene. Brilliant.
Yeah, she's great. Everyone was great. The one thing that I kind of didn't feel like was needed was bringing Martin Freeman's character back. It was like,
Martin Freeman's never needed.
I don't mind that character, but it just felt a bit. That was the one part of the movie where it was like, oh, they're setting up something else. They're setting up the Thunderbolts, I guess, or they're setting up something in the future, and it just felt a bit like Riri Williams. I feel it was integrated quite well into the plot. That introduction of that character didn't feel shoehorned in, whereas I felt like cutting to Martin Freeman all of a sudden, and just because he had a relationship with Wakanda in the past, he's like their sort of inside man in Washington. And, I don't know. It felt a bit. It felt like bloated at that point.
It felt like here, this is a phenomenal film, but we need you to put this guy in it. So put this guy in it.
I don't know. It was fine, but yeah, it sort of did take away from the pacing. I feel like that's when the movie, if there was momentum going, that's when the sort of breaks came on, and you'd be like, oh, I've never seen like this. And then it took a while to sort of get back into momentum. It had some pacing issues in that sense. And also, if you cut those scenes out, they wouldn't have really been necessary in the long run, and the movie wouldn't have been as long overall. And the pace, it would have just felt more, I don't know, it wouldn't have felt as runtime as much as it did, and I think those scenes were a lot to do with that. But yeah, and then also the scene at the end where they introduce the son of T'Challa, with Lupita Nyong'o's character. They're very much doing that at the minute. They seem to be introducing the kids for the characters. Like Thor's got a kind of semi-daughter now. She's Christian Bale's daughter technically, but he's got the wee girl he's cutting about with.
Don't even try and tell me this child was not necessary.
I'm not saying no. I didn't say it wasn't necessary.
I thought that's where you're going.
No. It's interesting how I actually just think it's like Marvel future proofing.
Yeah.
It's them being like, right, if we kind of like end the current lineup of the Avengers, we can maybe do a time skip of 10 years and do, I don't know, new actors.
No, the introducing of that wee boy.
Your wee boy was great as well. Yeah, it was well done, and it was obviously about legacy and about, yeah, I don't know, it's deep and it's heavy and it was well done. It didn't feel tacked on or shoehorned or crass. It felt legit and respectful, and like I said, the best of bad situation. That's really sums this movie up, I think. Yeah.
I would agree.
What would you score it?
I think I'm gonna go with an 8.
I'm at 8 as well. I think when I saw it, unlike the menu, it's kind of the other way around. When I saw this, it was probably at a 9, and now the more I kind of think about it, and the scenes with Everett Ross and stuff, it's kind of dropped to an 8 for me. But still solid. Still probably one of the best Phase 4 films.
Oh, definitely.
This and No Way Home, I'd say, are the two best. Because Thor was garbage. But
oh, I loved it, and I will go back and obviously rewatch it. And I liked the first Black Panther way more than you. I love the first Black Panther.
I don't dislike that movie. It's
a 7. I do like it
it's
more.
It's a 6 or 7. It's probably a 7, the first one.
But
like, it's a good movie. It's just
I feel a wee bit unjustified giving this an 8, to be honest. Giving this an 8 isn't sitting well with me. But it is things like the pacing and Martin Freeman's character that's making me drop it. If it wasn't for that, it would be right up there.
Although I will say, Ryan Coogler has gave us 2 of the best villains in the MCU, with Killmonger in the first one and Namor in this one. I think both times he's nailed.
And that guy that played Namor was brilliant.
Yeah, he was great.
Although, have you seen the thing that's going about on social
That they
media?
edited his bulge. Yeah, they had to like CGI it out. I love how that was someone's job though, just to in every scene just going.
So does that person.
Yeah, but I'm also looking forward to seeing more of him in the universe and stuff.
Same.
Yeah, it's good.
I'm looking forward to exploring that world more too, because I love stuff under the sea. I am a mermaid freak, but
although it hasn't been confirmed, I think without a doubt he's either going to get a Disney Plus show or a movie, like 100%.
Yeah, I think he deserves it.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see if he turns up in like when they do the Avengers and Kang and shit, if that becomes a factor. So yeah, so that was Black Panther. What we talk about next? Will we do Watcher?
Yes.
Watcher was good.
It was good.
You didn't know much about Watcher going in.
I knew very little. Actually.
I sort of knew a bit more about it. Watcher, we should also specifically say that it's not that.
It's not
shitty
the
Netflix
Watcher.
show.
Hey, you've not even seen that yet. Everybody's
But what I've
saying
seen,
it's so good.
but what I've seen in Gogglebox, it looks garbage.
So
right?
I'm watching that myself, apparently.
It's just called Watcher.
Yeah, very different.
And it stars, what's her name? She was in It Follows. She's great. So it's this American woman who meets a guy, and they're both in New York, and he's Hungarian originally, and he gets
Romanian.
No, Hungary?
Romanian.
Sure, it's Hungary. 99% sure it's Hungary. So they move to Hungary, and she is one of the only ones that doesn't speak the language, which obviously is an immediate like isolation thing. And is it Mika Monroe?
Mika Monroe.
She again, in the way that the menus Ray finds this movie, this was a really hard movie. She just absolutely done great, because again, it's the sort of movie where you don't
Bucharest is the capital of Romania. Thank you.
I very much apologise. It's set in Romania, not in Hungary. Was it Bucharest? I thought it was Budapest. There you go. So,
which also isn't in Hungary.
Yes, it is.
Is it?
Budapest is the capital of Hungary.
Is it?
Look it up.
Yeah.
So
I could be wrong on this one. I'll give you this one.
The only actor that I really knew in this movie was Burn Gorman, who plays the Watcher. And
Is this the capital of Hungary?
Yes.
Sorry, carry on.
So other than Mika Monroe and Burn Gorman, you don't really know any of the cast. So the movie does a good job of making you feel like you're in her shoes. The way that you don't know any of these actors and you don't speak the language either, and there's no subtitles or anything when they're speaking Romanian. The the movie does a good job of putting you in her shoes and feeling isolated and alienated, and almost like the whole point of the movie is this really happening, or is she just being paranoid and going insane? And
because she's spending so long on her own.
The movie sort of makes you feel like that as well. You're like, are we just seeing things that aren't there? And obviously, it's also a big message about how we should always listen to women when there's an issue. We should always like check it out and address it, and not just women, anyone that's got a concern.
I like that.
No, but you know, you should take shit like this seriously, and you shouldn't just play it down and be like, "Oh, we're fine," because that's how people get killed and people go missing and horrible shit happens. So, yeah, it sort of spoke to like the idea like it's not gaslighting, but what's it called when you like play something down and you sort of say, "Oh, you're just being daft." I guess it is kind of like gaslighting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you see it all the time in couples, like all the time it happens. Well, the next day you were in here yourself because I was working, and you were like, "I can't believe you made me go see that film," and then you left me out. And I'm like, "Ah, you'll be fine." And we're like, "Wait a minute, is this not the plot of the movie?" Bon Gorman's great in it. Jesus, what a creep that guy is when he wants to be.
Oh, he's so good.
All he needs to do is that weird stare or like lift his hand to wave, and you're like, he's great.
And I bet he's so nice in real life.
And there's a certain part. So, like, again, full spoilers. When they eventually come face to face, well, they come face to face at the door, because he goes to the police and says that she's been harassing him.
No, they come face to face in the stairwell.
Yeah, briefly after the boyfriend harasses his dad.
They see each other.
Yeah, but I mean, when they speak, they like interact vocally. The police is like, "Right, can you shake hands? We'll leave this kind of amicable." And when he reaches his hand out, like even that alone, like his hand looks so like cold and creepy, and you're like, "Oh, don't touch him." But
he still doesn't say anything to her. They've not interacted vocally at that point.
Okay, he's not saying it.
Which is the beauty of that scene, I felt.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't say anything to him, he doesn't say anything to her, because they know.
Yeah.
They know.
They're the ones that know what's going on.
The policeman and her husband that do the talking, and she speaks only to her husband.
Yeah, okay.
Because he is supposed to be the safety, he is supposed to be the bouncer, if you will, of her life.
Sure.
And he lets her down with that.
So I bet you can tell that we'll get into their relationship as well, which is a bit funny. Not in a good way. So the other thing, when they eventually do come face to face and they have a conversation on the train.
Yeah.
When they're on the subway.
When he first speaks to her.
Right, obviously it's creepy and it's kind of like your heart's going, but you also feel a bit of sympathy for him. Like when he says he's just a lonely man, and when a beautiful girl waved to him, it made his day, and he waved back. And there's a part of you that's like, he's just a lonely guy. But
I see you.
Yeah, you shouldn't feel like that because he's a psychopath. But I don't know. It's just I'm more speaking to his performance. So like he sells that lonely kind of innocent but a bit weird guy, as well as being the psychopath we eventually see.
He's so good.
Yeah, he's great. And again, he does a lot without speaking. Does a lot like just with his face and his movement and stuff. The other part. So the movie, it really is just one big long movie about just pulling the rope tighter and tighter and tighter, and feeling the tension get tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter until it eventually snaps. And like a lot of other movies, like The Black Phone, we've seen that this year, and that sort of done that in stages. There was like the first third of the movie was like tension, and then tension, and it kind of like that's how it treated each act. Whereas this whole movie, which for some people they might think this is a bit of a slow burn in that sense because it does take the whole movie to get there. But I love tension. Like that to me is good horror. And even though this isn't, I guess it's more of a thriller than a horror because there's no actual supernatural shit going on. There's no actual, but it's a very real horror because there are creeps like that out there.
Yeah.
But it's not like it's not jump scares. It's not.
Spoilers. You see a lady without her head.
You do see a lady without her head at a certain point. But even that shot, when you discover that, I didn't feel like a fright. I felt more like,
fucking knew it.
Yeah. It was like, shit. Like, which was really effective because when you see a decapitated body, the first thing you should do is be like, ugh. But the fact that the movie sells so well that it's more tragic than scary. It's well paced. Some of the scenes of tension in the movie are just phenomenal. Like the part with the wave, that's really creepy. The part in the cinema, So she goes. The fact that she's specifically going to the cinema as like a place of comfort because they're showing an American movie, or showing a Cary Grant movie, I think. So she's
Yes.
like, right, this
And
is
he
my
takes
language.
that away from her.
And then he goes in and he totally takes it away from her. And I also love how even at the end of the movie, when you know that yes, he is a psycho and he was stalking her, was it him in the cinema? Because you never see
No,
his
it
face.
wasn't.
Do
You
never?
see his jacket?
Oh, do you? Okay.
You see his brown jacket?
Oh, okay.
It was him.
Right. Okay. But I
And he
like
follows her from the cinema to the
to
shop.
the shop. Yeah. The
was
scene in the shop we could as well.
Don't try and do this ambiguous thing that we spoke about last night, right? No, it was him.
Okay.
You see the side of his face, and you see his jacket. It was him.
Okay. But to the film's credit, they don't explicitly show you that it's him, so I think that was effective. Because it leaves that wee element of doubt.
Yeah.
But also, you're 100% on her side when she leaves. You're like, yes, get the fuck out of there,
right.
leave now. Like, go.
Go
So,
home. Don't leave.
yeah,
Stay there.
it just does a really good job of putting the protagonist's shoes and and just being creeped out for 90 minutes until eventually the reveal happens and you're like, okay, here we go.
It's so good.
Yeah.
I liked this film a lot more than I thought I was going to.
Good.
I did.
Actually, it was one of the ones that I knew you would like it because you like serial killer stuff.
Love serial killer.
And obviously he's a Romanian serial killer. The Spider. But it was more than a serial killer movie because it wasn't like a detective thing. It was more about it was a serial killer's movie for the victim's point of view, I guess.
Yeah.
More than like normal serial killer movies, you see it for the cop's point of view, whereas this movie it's more of that for the victim's point of view. So it's actually quite an interesting.
I like
look
that aspect
at
of it. Yeah.
yeah, kind of tropey genre, a busy genre anyway. Yeah, their relationship. I thought the husband was really good, but God, he was an arsehole. Like, see the parts where like he was talking to his smug pals in Hungarian, and they were obviously speaking about her, and he was trying to like again play it down as if don't be daft for no top of you. You're not that important. Like, oh my God, like you wanted him to die so much, and then at the end when she walks out,
Because that's what you said. You were like, she should shoot him as well.
I know when so at the end of the movie. Again, you should see this before hearing us talk about it because spoilers and stuff. But if you haven't, she gets stabbed by him, and you're led to believe that she's dead. And then, just as the husband can't find her, he leaves the apartment to go and look for her, and he sees the Watcher coming out of next door's apartment, where this other dead woman's apartment, the one with no head.
Who she had already tried to say there's something going on in that apartment.
Yes, she had.
And they went in, and he was hiding in the closet.
He's hiding in the closet. I know.
And
you only know that in hindsight.
You see her looking at the closet, and I went, he's in there.
Yeah.
And then it just takes you away from it, and I'm like, no, go look at the closet.
Yeah, some of the cinematography was really good in that sense. There's a sort of lingering with the camera a lot of the time, and a lot of stuff happens on the corners of the screen and stuff that you're like, did I just see something there? And it does a good job of playing with your paranoia and playing with your sort of
it does.
anticipation. So yeah, because you were in that scene, you were almost expecting the closet door to move or something, but that would have been too obvious, so they didn't do that, and they just leave it up to your sort of imagination. It's effective.
Yeah.
So. Aye, the husband at the end when he walks out and he sees him coming out, like you know it's a good movie and it's a well told movie when you're sitting in the audience going, "I told you," like, and 100% I was doing that. I was like, "That's what you get," and stuff. And then, yeah, your
wife's dead because of you.
Yeah, right. Like 100%. That's good writing and it's good acting and it's good pacing and aye, the Watcher was solid.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else to say about it?
I've not said anything about it. You've just rambled on.
Sorry, I just totally hogged it. I really liked that movie.
Yeah.
What did you think of it?
No, I did. I loved it. Again, I went in not knowing much, but not expecting much either. Like I don't know. You kind of took me to see that. You didn't drag me to see it. That's the wrong word. But yeah, I was not bothered.
There wasn't many showings of it.
We were really tired, and I was like, right, we'll go for the nachos. Like whatever. I know I enjoyed it way more than I thought I would have, and it was, even though you did say it as a slow burner, which I'm not disagreeing with, it is, but the pace of it went a bit faster than I expected it to.
It's not too long.
No, it didn't drag out the whole thing of like, oh, is he following me? Oh, is he I thought we were going to get a good third, maybe half of the film where she's like, is he following me? Is he following me? Is he following me? And then she starts following him. But no, that happened way faster, and I was way down for that.
The whole film's only 90 minutes. It's an hour and a half. So
it
doesn't overstay its welcome.
It's great. It's perfectly timed. It's got a brilliant pace to it. Again, the relationships, you feel it. Like, even though, okay, it's not good relationships, you still buy the chemistry
believable.
that's there.
Yeah, oh, but like I said, you've seen couples like that, like these folk.
Yeah, totally. Could name a few. But I thought everybody's performance was solid. I thought the girl who stayed next door was great, and she was your kind of refuge.
Yeah, she was the one friendly face.
She was a gal's gal. Like, if you were to move to a strange country,
you'd want
that's the
like
neighbour
that.
you want.
Yeah.
You want somebody that's going to be like, I'm going for a drink. Come on, let's go do something. Do you know what I mean? She was the comfort. Rather than the husband being the comfort, she was the comfort.
She was good.
And then when you hear the commotion happening next door, you're like, oh no.
That's the thing. It also makes it more tragic when she dies.
And then you go
like
in, and the cat, there was a cat that's went missing like earlier on in the film, and the cat's next door, and you're like, oh, I was like, but I know. I was like, it's not the cat. Cats are dicks. Cats aren't gonna try and tell her there's a guy in the closet, by the way. See, if it was a dog, it'd be sniffing at the closet, so then everybody would go to the closet, they would open it, and then the lady would be okay.
The cat knows and doesn't give a shit.
Cats are dicks.
Cat knows.
We covered this. We covered this in last night's episode, which I don't know if will be up by the time this one's up, but yeah, that's the premise of anything, right? So that also lent itself to the fact that it was a cat that went missing, not a dog. But when he's following her, you know, as a girl, like for me, walking in and you go, nah, I'm just being paranoid. Nah, there's a guy walking back, nah, I'm just being paranoid.
Yeah.
But you've been there. Every woman has been there, where you've felt that,
just
that
in case.
unease.
Yeah.
You've been in a supermarket.
The one time you do let your guard down, you think that's the time you're going to get jumped.
Exactly. Exactly. Every single one of us have been there, unfortunately, but that's the reality. We've all been there. And you have always, even if it's not like you've never played it down for me or whatever, but it's even just in your head where you go, nah,
society
I'm talking
plays
rubbish.
it down, yeah.
Talking rubbish. I'm over exaggerating, I'm victimising myself or whatever. And then she's not.
Yeah, like, she gets stabbed in the neck.
She's not.
Like,
it was so effective when she goes into that apartment and she's walking in and you first see her the girl's feet, but then you see how they're sitting.
Like slumps.
And
Lifeless.
then you see the rest of her sitting, and then you see that she's got no head.
Stump.
And you go, oh, and like you said, it's not a it's a oh, and then he stabs her, and then you go,
yeah,
and it freaks you out, and it was brilliant. And there's been is it the Chekhov's gun?
Yes, there's a literal.
Quite literally.
Chekhov's gun.
There's a gun in the dresser, and she's trying to crawl to it, and you're like, hen, what's the point?
Yeah.
Just what's the point? But then it shows you that there is a point, because he
wrong.
leaves, and she's then standing up and shoot them, and you're like, yes. You're like, damn. And then the husband comes and you're like, get him as well.
And I like how the movie ended when it did, because it didn't show you like if she was going to bleed out or if she lives at the end.
Yeah.
Because that's not really the point. The point is you should have believed her. That's the message the movie leaves you with. It doesn't really matter whether, you know, she's okay or not then, like whether he missed the artery or whatever.
Yep.
It just makes you go, oh, you should really have paid attention earlier.
Yep. That's the point.
So yeah.
Brilliant. Excellent.
Solid
Loved
movie.
it. Solid.
Would you score it?
9.
Yeah, I'm at 9 too. And also, this is something I meant to mention during the menu when we were talking about it. Like the menu, this could be a play. I had that vibe to it. Both the menu and Watcher could be good, interesting stage.
I'm not sure what's bringing it down from a 10 for me, but it just isn't.
I just feel like I've seen, maybe it's not fair to say it like this, but I just feel like I've seen a bit of horror this year. But in terms of just a small movie that not many people are talking about, it's still vastly underrated.
Oh, vastly.
For what it is.
Oh my
like,
God,
more people should be talking about this and saying it. And unfortunately, that thing on Netflix, The Watcher, is probably killing a lot of the hype behind this. But anyway, if you, again, have for some reason listened this far and haven't seen the movie, go and see it because it's great. So, the last movie we're going to talk about is another creep fest. This is Barbarian, which I've been looking forward to for a long time and didn't know much about going in. Kind of like the menu. I would say if, again, you should watch all these movies before we talk about them, but if there's two you're going to watch before we talk about it, it should be the menu and Barbarian. I feel like those are the two you're better just going in totally blind.
Yeah. I went in completely blind with the Barbarian. I knew nothing about it.
So I watched the trailer with Bill Skarsgård, in the Airbnb. That's as much as I knew.
You told me Bill Skarsgård was in it. I love Bill Skarsgård, so I was down.
He's great. Again,
doesn't matter what it is.
All of these movies tonight, the casts are all
stellar,
pretty impeccable. Yeah. Because again, in Barbarian, like across the board, everybody serves their role perfectly. Like, so yeah. It's kind of weird to talk about Barbarian because I feel like you need to talk about its segments because the way it's paced. So
the okay bit and the really bad bit.
The opening, well, again,
the really bad scary.
We spoke earlier about when we were talking about watching about tension. I feel like Barbarian's the kind of movie that pulls tension and then lets it go, and then pulls, and then it does that a few times.
Oh.
So, but it gets more intense every time it does it.
You feel not well talking about
this. It builds. Yeah. So again. Female lead in a horror movie, kind of playing on the idea of a woman in a city she doesn't know and a rundown area that she doesn't know.
Are we talking about the same movie?
Dangers of that. She ends up in this Airbnb in Detroit. Obviously, Bill Skarsgård's already in there. So that first sequence in the film, I'm not going to go into the plot details because I'm assuming everybody's seen this film. That first sequence in the film, I feel like could have been its own short. I don't know if this was a short movie before, but I feel like that could have been its own short movie.
Yeah.
Like, see the point where, spoilers, the big female woman creature bashes Bill Skarsgård's head in.
So scary.
See if it ended there, that could be like the first episode of a TV show or a short film.
Aye.
Do you know what I mean? Like, that could have been its own sequence. So...
so cute.
Yeah, Bill Skarsgård, even though like that's the first third of the movie, say, and overall he's not in it that much, I guess. He makes the most of the screen time that he does have.
He does.
And can you look up the actress's name because she was great as well. Their sort of chemistry and the sort of uncertainty of a lot of the dialogue between them, and again the situation that they've both just ended up in, and they're kind of trying to make the most of it. They want to like each other, but there's that wee sort of
Georgina Campbell,
she was solid. There's a sort of preemptive apprehension towards each other. What? Why are you doing that face? People are listening, don't know what face you're doing. What are you doing?
Oh, do you know that the person that played the mother as they're credited was a man?
No, I didn't know. Well, wait, who is it?
Matthew Patrick Davis.
No, I didn't. But it kind of makes sense. Yeah, it was an interesting performance. So, yes, the opening sort of sequence, it reminded me a lot of Psycho. See the way that she turns up at the hotel and she's not quite sure about the guy that's in there.
Yep.
That vibe very much had. He was channeling.
Well, I've never seen Psycho, so I'm going to believe you on that.
He was channeling Norman Bates quite a lot in that opening sequence, but turns out he is a nice guy. But I also like how they don't make it obvious until this creature literally grabs his head and bashes it against the wall. Because even the point where he goes down to the basement and he's shouting to her, "I can't come back up. You need to come in." And you're like, he's up to something. And then
he gonna kill you.
And then even when like she finds him and he's terrified, he says to her, "We can't go back that way. We have to go this way." And she's like, "Why would we go deeper?" Like, even that seems sus.
Yeah.
So literally right up to the point, because that's when she runs out and grabs him, right up to the very point that she runs out and kills him, you're not sure, like, what he's up to. So it does a good job of, like, again, playing with your sort of preemptive notions of people and situations, which, again, is good horror. Like, horror... Okay, scary, boo, that's all well and good, but see when you can use that, or any genre like comedy,
scary, boo.
Comedy, funny, haha. Whenever you can use any genre to use that as a tool to explore something else, that's what I like in genre movies. Yeah. And I think they use horror in this movie to explore the hesitation that humans have towards each other. They don't know, like that sort of innate feeling that you're like, I don't know.
They should have had in Watcher.
They should have had in Watcher. Yeah, so they use the jump scare in a way that it's also really well shot, and the costume itself is creepy, and she just looks terrifying the way she runs towards her, and she's huge, and there's all that visual stuff, but when you actually break it down and think about the sort of details of the situation they're in and where they are in this basement that no one knows where they are and how deep the basement goes, that's where my mind starts to go. I was like, how deep does this thing go? And then it turns out it goes a lot deeper, as we find out later and stuff. But again, the way that they reveal that isn't scary, because even after the movie gives you this big scare, and then cuts to Hollywood, and Justin Long's driving about in his convertible, and it's sunny, and you kind of get introduced to this guy who's a bit of an absolute scumbag, and he's getting Me Too'd, and he kind of disappears to Detroit to sell some assets. In other words, to pay for his court case, he's going to need to sell this house, which turns out he's the owner of this house. And the first thing, when he discovers the basement and another sex room, the first thing he does isn't go, holy shit, there's a torture chamber, because he finds the room with the camera and the bed. Yeah. He doesn't go, holy shit, there's a torture chamber in my house. He goes, oh my god, money. He goes and grabs the first thing he does, he Googles, can you get more money per square footage? And then he goes down the measuring tape. And again, there's a really clever sequence with measuring tape where he's obviously got it latched on somewhere, and he's measuring to this. He finds like this room with a purple light, and he's standing in front of it, and then all of a sudden the measuring tape gets like snatched off him. So you know that there's something else at the other side of that measuring tape. Which again, the best scares, the best scares are the ones you don't see, like that. You can't see the women pulling the tape, but you know what's happening, and that's what's scary. It's playing on your imagination.
The lady's crunker.
And again, talking about these psychos and violent, insane people that are kind of sympathetic. There's certain points where you do. It's not her fault. She's this, like, spoilers. She's this like incest baby that's grown up and has spent 40 years in this basement, and she just wants a family because she's the only thing she's had to watch. The only thing she's had to watch is this breastfeeding instruction video. Like, it's really tragic and sad. And again, I think the best horror. I always come back to this. For me, a lot of the best horror is when they blend terror and sadness. Hereditary does it. This does it. Watcher does it to some extent. It's more of a sadness about like other social things, but we spoke about that already. But it's sad in a different way, you know what I mean? Whereas this is like this is like more kind of like, yeah, it's not her fault. She's like an animal because through circumstance, through no fault of her own.
She doesn't know any different.
And spoilers at the end, when she eventually gets killed, it's kind of a kindness, like they're kind of putting her down out of her misery.
And you discover that it's actually her father that is the real monster in this.
Well, that's the question, is like, who is the Barbarian in the title referring to? Like, at first you think, is it Bill Skarsgård? Is he the Barbarian? Is it this monster in the basement? No, it's him. He's the real monster, the real Barbarian. And again, the movie gives you this whole sequence with Justin Long, and then again takes you back to a kind of sunny day in like the 80s when Reagan's president, and no, is it Nixon? Whoever, no, it's Reagan. It's Reagan, and the is it Ned? What's his name? That creepy guy that's in Peaky Blinders and stuff. Again, he's really good at just being
Richard Brake.
Deplorable. Richard Brake.
Ned.
Maybe his name's Ned in Peaky Blinders. I don't remember.
Name's Frank in this.
Yeah, and just I like the part where it's kind of like sick in a way, but it's kind of like, I don't know, it's clever, where the neighbour's like, are you moving, Frank? Because this neighbourhood's going to shit. And he's like, I'm not going anywhere. And quite literally, he's still there 40 years later in the basement as an old decrepit man lying in the bed. So he quite literally wasn't going anywhere the whole time. Anywhere.
But he wants the neighbourhood to go downhill.
Yeah, because then there's less eyes on him. Yeah, he can do what he wants.
So the gist is that he is the father of this monster because he kidnaps and rapes women and makes them have his babies, and this is the only one that's lived.
Yeah. And it's also interesting to think, like, that's the thing, again, they don't show you in this, but it's all implied, which, again, good horror. You don't really think, and just good storytelling, you don't really see the last time he came out and got a victim, but you assume that he's not done it for a long time, because it's been long enough that Justin Long's been able to buy this house. It was probably declared, like, what's the word, like, condemned. Yeah. So he's like obviously bought it, and then he's rented it out as an Airbnb, and also there's been other people staying there with all that shit going on in the basement, and they didn't know anything about it for all these years. That it's all that's just implied. Like, you don't see any of that, but you know what's been going on. And again, it's good world building, and it gives the house a history.
Yeah.
It makes the house, I think already, I'd say that house in Barbarian is like an iconic horror set in the way that like the Evil Dead 2 house is iconic, or like the house in the hotel in The Shining. Like, it's got a history to it, and it's got a sort of all this stuff tied to it, that it's not just physical things. You know, there's shit that went down here, and it's a horrible, messed up place. But, and again, even though it's obviously a kind of slightly heightened reality because the way that women moves and stuff isn't, and how strong she is maybe a bit like superhuman almost.
Yeah.
She's not been like experimented on. There's no like,
No.
or she's not a ghost, or she's not like, it is still grounded in a really messed up reality, like in the way that Watcher is. Like,
yeah.
I mean, people like Joseph Fritzl existed, and that's who this guy's kind of like, Frank. Yeah, and it just obviously it's an extreme version of that. It's a Hollywood version of that, but the point is, it's kind of still grounded in some form of reality. Yeah, what did you think of Barbarian? Because again, I've just totally hogged this whole conversation.
I hated it. It was horrible, but it was great. like that's my thing. Like, I do like horror films, but I never know how to approach them in terms of reviewing them.
You're getting really, one thing that might sound patronising, tell me if it does, but you're getting really good at going to the cinema and seeing horror films. Like, see, a few years ago you wouldn't have done that.
No.
Whereas now you're quite up for it.
I'm a big chicken.
I think you do quite enjoy it though. Like, even though there's like the anticipation and stuff.
A little bit.
When you're there, and when we leave, like when we left both Barbarian Watcher, The Black Phone, you were like, oh, that was like, it's like there is a part of you that enjoys it.
It's a good, well-made film because it makes me want to die. Like,
but even though it does that off-putting thing, you also want to know more. Like, it's also intrigue.
The more it makes me want to shut my eyes and crawl into a hole and never go to sleep ever again, probably shows how, like, that probably shows how good the film was.
Well, that's the thing about great horror. Like, it's so, as you said, it's so. Like...
We've not went to see anything yet that I've went, no, I can't watch this. I need to leave. I can see it coming, but it's not happened yet.
But that's the thing. Like, good horror is meant to be the kind of horror that you're in your eyes, but you're looking between your eyes. You know, you can't. It's like a car crash. Like, even though you don't want to watch it, you can't take your eyes off it.
Which is what I was doing. Especially when the lady first turned up.
Between the gaps in your fingers.
I was literally, I had a hat on and I had a hoodie.
The brim of your hat there.
The hoodie was like this and the hat was like
whatever gets you through.
And I was kind of like...
Whatever gets you through.
Looking and no, scary.
And there isn't, to be fair, there's not that many jump scares in Barbarian. Which again, I hate the overuse of jump scares. I much prefer tension in horror.
It's the tension and it's the chasing and the... Ooh,
and the odd... There's a few. The odd one that's there though, I feel like it's earned. Like it's
when she comes through the building...
Yeah, what, when she's there with the homeless guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, she just tears his arm off.
Yeah.
And beats him to death with
it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, this movie
awesome.
Goes dark places, like it's pretty messed
up.
Oh,
it's messed up. It's messed up. But don't get me wrong, like, again, it's got its elements of comedy through it. It's got the whole tragedy with her, like, you do feel for her at the end of the film, and the killing of her is as much of a relief for the audience, with you going, oh, thank God, like, she's dead, like, I don't need to watch it anymore, like, cool, and, oh, thank God, it's over for her, like, she doesn't need to go through this torture anymore. So, yeah, that makes it
Which
a great
sticks with
film.
you. That's the part that sticks with you.
It really, really does. It was really good. Really, really good. All the cast were stellar. Again, like, that man, I actually can't look at him after that film.
Richard Brake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Horrific.
Yeah, he's
like,
so gross.
Sickening. Sickening. He was the most sickening part of that film.
Yeah, which is
and she tries to breastfeed a grown man.
Yeah.
And he's the most sickening part of that film.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it was great. It was horrific, which is what it's supposed to be, so it done its job. And it had Bill Skarsgård in it, so that one's for me.
Yeah, and he's always great. So, what would you rate Barbarian?
No, one goes to scare me. I think I'd maybe go an 8. I was going to go a 9, but I think I'd maybe go an 8.
Do you want to know something? This is probably a first on for a consideration.
No!
I'm toying with a 10.
No!
I'm almost... I think I need to rewatch it to solidify
By
that.
yourself?
But that's the thing, it has been something, maybe you not so much, but I've really wanted to rewatch it since I've seen it.
We can rewatch it. I'll rewatch it.
I think that... Actually, you're on couch, you can hide behind cushions. I don't know what's stopping it for just being a definitive 10. I think I just need to watch it again.
See, but I think I would give it a 9. I feel like I'm unfair giving it an 8 because I don't have a reason why I'm giving it an 8. I think it was just because it's
it's just been enjoyment. But I just feel like...
But in terms of a horror film enjoyment, I would probably give it a 9.
I feel like 2022 has been such a strong year for good horror, and I think this might be the best of the bunch, which is why I'm at a 10. It's this or Peril, which we're going to talk about next week.
Wow.
But in terms of, I would actually maybe rate this slightly above Peril because we'll get into my deep thoughts on Peril next week. But just sort of surface level comparing the two, they're both great, amazing. They blend horror and sadness. But they're both horror movies, and this movie's scarier than Peril. So
Yeah,
that puts it above Peril for me.
I
Like,
would
as
agree
much
with
as
that.
I love
I
both
wouldn't
movies,
rate Peril as high as I have for this. No.
we'll get into my thoughts on Peril next week, kind of in more detail. But in terms of delivering what it's meant to be, which is a horror movie, that's why Barbarian's above Peril for me.
Yeah.
And spoilers, I'm probably going to give Peril a 9. That's what it is now in my head. If that's a 9,
I
this
don't
is a
want to
10.
rewatch Peril.
Really?
Peril was. Oh, we're getting into it, and we shouldn't. But Peril was too boring for me to rewatch.
Right.
Like, I've seen it. Why I don't have a hankering to
It's a
rewatch
different
it.
kind of movie.
Whereas I would happily rewatch.
This film isn't
I
really.
would happily rewatch Barbarian.
Barbarian isn't really a character exploration in the way that Peril is. Peril's more a character study.
Yeah. Whether that's for the good or not, I don't know.
Did you not like Peril? Just quick, I know this is by the by, not the movies we're talking about, but did you prefer X?
Yes.
Did you?
Yes.
I'm looking forward to Maxine though. That'll be good. So, anyway, we'll talk about that next week. Barbarian. Do you know what? Let's just nip it in the bud. Let's just say it's a 10. Like I said, I might rewatch it and come back and I might find something that stops it from being a 10. But at the minute, just in terms of like thinking back on it and my experience watching it in the cinema and the
You
thoughts I've
can
had
do
since, it's at a 10.
You don't
Listen,
need to justify it. It's
I
fine.
do. A 10's a big deal. Right?
I know, but you can do it.
Okay. Thanks.
Well done.
I appreciate the support.
High
five.
Yeah.
We got
First 10.
We got a 10. Episode 10. We bring you a 10. What can I say?
I feel good about that. Let's go get.
And it will be. I mean, I could make an argument for any of these movies being my top 10 of the year, but I'd say that Barbarian's definitely going to be in my top 10 of the year.
Yeah.
Like, not just in horror, just in general.
I'd definitely say the menu's up there for me. Definitely.
Menu's great. These films are all great. If you haven't seen them, go and see them. If you have seen them, let us know what you thought of them in the comments. Let us know, did you have a favourite out of the four we spoke about? Is there anything you didn't like? Because we also loved all these movies this week, which again is rare for our consideration.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So,
usually one of us hates something.
Yes, you can. We mentioned the episode of Pop Shop. We recorded episode 25. That'll probably be up before this, but one or the other. You can check that out, link below, or on the channel, and check out Fandom Wire reviews. And I'll link them below, and I'll also link your food blog that you mentioned earlier, which is, give me the name of it. It's not Bubbles Bakes. It is Never Not Hungry, but follow us Bubbles Bakes as well. If you're looking for a cake
if you
for
want
Christmas,
a cake
give
and
us a
you're in
shout.
Glasgow, you know.
Yeah, I like those Instagram pages and stuff below. And follow Pop Shock on all the socials from our episodes, all for our consideration, and Pop Shock, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, whatever, everywhere else. YouTube, obviously.
All of them good places.
Yeah, all the good places. And we'll see you next week to talk about probably Peril, but we might talk about Peril this episode, but we've seen these movies and we want to speak about these, so we'll see. But we'll get to it at some point, and we'll get to Banshees and all these other films that we've yet to talk about.
Hey, we've only got 3 left.
Plus Glass Onion's out this week, which I really want to see.
Yeah.
And what else did I say earlier that's out that I want to see? There's something else coming out. But it's good. It's a good time to be
It's gonna annoy me.
a movie fan.
Oh, it's gonna annoy me. It's gonna annoy me.
I'm sure we'll speak about it on this podcast at some point. Yeah. So until then, stay gold and handsome, and we will see you in the next episode. These intros are getting so much worse as they go.
Okie dokie, bye.